Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and been a real hot day today in Nelson, BC. People are kind of staying in the shade a bit and keeping out of that hot sun, and not taking umbrellas with them if they are out, or trying to find a shade tree or someplace to get in out of the hot sun to prevent sunburn and sunstroke. Just wanted to celebrate. We're at the 6th year of the loss of my wife of 55 years, and there's some things that I learned, and I'm not sure that you people have something to add or not, but I'm just going to add some positive things that have helped me out of it and to help me heal. 6 years is quite a bit of time, and for the first while, we meet with a lot of seniors who've lost a wife or a husband of a number of years, and usually when you first meet them and they first start talking, they start, as soon as they mention the name, you want to say, you want to give them condolences, but as soon as you mention the word about condolences, and of course if a name comes up, the person immediately starts dropping tears. Tears start coming out of the eyes, because they're pretty sensitive, as they're still hurting from the loss of their loved one. The reason I decided to talk about this a little bit today was because a lady of one of the Facebook members had recently lost her dog that she had for a lot of years. The dog was a good friend and spent a lot of time on the farm going around and chasing rabbits and chasing deer and dogs and whatever. And of course, the pet becomes a very nice companion. They don't talk, but they have their own way of understanding what we're talking to them about it, and they become a real companion. And we meet a lot of people walking down Lakeside Park where they have a small puppy dog or maybe a bigger dog. And we stop, and I used to ask them about what breed the dog is, and the safety factor with dogs is you don't go over and start petting them until you make damn sure that the dog is going to befriend you. And usually, when I see the dog about 4 or 5 feet away, I'll pat my leg with my hand, and if the dog is friendly, they'll usually want to come over to you so you can pet them. And you have to be a little careful because sometimes you can get bitten. So anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Hospice Society. After my wife passed away, I went to hospice meetings for about 3 years. And here in Nelson, I have a very nice hall up near Rosemont. And they have meetings there once a year. And then they also have fall session where they have candles all over the place and lights, and it's a recognition for all the people that died over the years. And there's guest speakers, and sometimes they have people playing music. And one time we had a lady playing a harp, a very nice lady. And the one thing that I did learn when I went into the meeting, normally there's 6 tables, and there's about 6 people per table sitting around, and the object of the thing is to get people to talk about their situation, to get them to talk about why they're there and who they lost and what they're feeling. And there's 6 people at a table usually, and the one thing that I found out as a public speaker, I found out that you have to be able to talk about things. Once you can talk about them several times, the pain and suffering goes away. Not go away totally, but it gets more bearable. So I'll give you an example of one case. We're sitting at a table, and there were 6 people at the table, and there was 3 seniors, and there was one young lady. She's about 30 years old, and for me, I just stood up and told about my wife passing away, and how we gave the doctor approval to pull the plug on her so she'd let her die with dignity. And that was a little hard to do, but I said it and told the people about it, and there was a few questions, but those type of meetings. There's not many questions afterwards because it's pretty sentimental. And a lot of times, 3 or 4 people sitting at a table, and maybe 6 people, and sometimes 2 or 3 of them still crying. And the one that was there was a young lady sitting at our table, and so we talked a little bit. And when we got to her, the idea was that everybody talks about it on a table separately, and then somebody stands up as a chairman for the group and explains what they talked about and what they came up with and any solutions, and just a kind of get people to speak their mind. There was a young lady about 30 years old there, and she was crying away, and so I asked her what was wrong. What was it? She said, my mom has got cancer really bad, and she said her and I had a bad relationship. And she said, we're different arguments about stuff, and that's normal in life. I mean, everybody grew up in a different era. And sometimes when you grow up with your mom and dad, you might be growing up in the era of age 20 or 16, from 0 to 16 as a baby to a child, and you find out as they age, they're learning as well. So they're learning they've lost their parents, and they're also living life and learning how to earn money and going through a lot of sad times too. And she said we had all these difference of opinion, and arguments about this and arguments about that, and she said, I don't know what I can do to make things better. I said, well, as far as I'm concerned, nothing beats sitting down and talking. So if you could get yourself a piece of paper and write down some things that you've got on your mind, if there's some specific things that happened over your lifetime. She's going to die probably by the sounds of it within a year. But if you want to get those things out in the open, just write them on a piece of paper, and as you're visiting in the hospital or the care home, bring them up. And if there's an apology required, and if you need to make an apology, do an apology. Sometimes people won't apologize, though, because there's an embarrassment factor, but it's just tough. I've seen my dad when he was nearly passing away, and also my stepmom, and also 4 or 5 people here in town, and people live on the farm way back years and years ago. It's not a pretty time, but it's something we have to adjust to. And we have to remember, those people are gone now, and we don't know whether they've gone to heaven or what's happened to them, because as the body depreciates, our body winds up being back in ashes into the soil. And we help to fertilize the trees and the flowers, and we become fertilizer whether we like it or not. That's the way life is. And I think the more we can talk about those kind of things, it's sometimes tough when a person that just came from a death. It's very hard, pretty painful stuff, because you got the loss. It's a little loss factor there. And I found that the meetings were very, very good, very constructive. Meet a lot of nice people. Find about a lot of different ways of looking at life. Find out how they're disposing of the body and that type of a thing. And there's usually a couple of the people that kind of run the meeting. We had 2 people at our meeting running the meeting, and so the question and answer period afterwards. That was very productive. So it took me. It was about 2 years before I could actually start talking about my wife's name and bringing it forward before actually tears would start to run. And that's okay. It's not a crime to shed a tear too, because sometimes it takes the emotional feeling off the death. And we have to remember, those people are now gone. They're gone, and they're free of pain and suffering. And think about all the nice times and the memories that they leave for us. So, because now after they're gone, we go back and collect up all these old pictures and videos, and make up some picture albums and share them with people. And we have very interesting meetings with the family and with other friends, and talk about their lives, if they were involved in music, as my wife was. People still remember her playing music and entertaining seniors and stuff like that, and playing with Paul Olitsky and Doug McDonald and all kinds of people like that who were into music. And we have one son who's a musician as well, Glenn, the oldest boy. And it's one of these things, if people like it, it's a stress reliever too. So if you have the end to play a guitar or fiddle or something like that, feel free to take it up. Now there's people who want to do the teaching in towns, and with the internet now with YouTube, you can go on there and you can type in on the search engine on YouTube. You can type in "play the rhythm guitar" or "tuning the rhythm guitar," and all of a sudden a little video comes up, and this instructor comes on there and shows you what you're asking, answers your question for you. Now there's a couple other things that I want to share with you. There's a lot of guest speakers on the internet, and I spent a little time watching. So if you are interested in any topics, go on Google, and in the search engine, the search window, type in TED Talks, TED Talks. And there's lots of very qualified speakers all over the world on there, and they talk about a variety of topics. They talk about family, they talk about business, they talk about supervisory, they talk about just about anything you can imagine. And it's usually they have a talker on there who's either a psychiatrist or maybe a professor from university. Very interesting stuff. The talks go on for sometimes 20 or 30 minutes, and there's enough talks on there you could probably watch it for 6 months and never see them all. TED Talks. So we invite you to have a look at that. It's very good stuff. You'll be surprised what you'll learn. Some of the things that you thought of maybe in your lifetime and never experienced them, and all of a sudden you have a person bringing a topic forward and talking about it, and all of a sudden it perks your interest and sometimes answers a question or two for you. Now the other speaker that I really enjoy listening to, and you might want to write this one down, he was a college professor in California. His name is Leo, Leo Buscaglia, Buscaglia, Leo, Leo, Buscaglia, Leo Buscaglia. And he's got about, I'd say about 10 30-minute videos on there. And he talks about love, and he explains about how his grandmother was an Italian lady, and she issued some tough love. He talked about a couple of times, I guess, when they misbehaved, and he got a spanking, and he pushes the fact that you have to let people know where they're at, and he emphasized that his grandmother was a disciplinarian, so if she asked him to do something, there was a good reason for it, and if he didn't do it, you had to pay the penalty. You ought to spend some time in your bedroom, or maybe you got the wooden spoon on the back end a little bit, and sometimes that kind of stuff sticks with us. I can remember the time when I was going to school, they still had the strap there, and we had a teacher by the name of Lionel Marion, who was a crippled teacher, and he used to give the strap to kids usually once a week maybe. There's some guys who really were misbehaviors, and it didn't take long after about a week. The school session would start up, and it'd take about a week before they'd get the law laid down where you don't put up with any fool. You got your work to do. We're not going to put up with talking in the classroom, and you're going to get your work done, and don't accept any excuses. He wasn't mean, but he said, when I want you to do something, there's a reason for it, and all the other kids are doing it, so you got to do it too. And he was a French guy, very good teacher, but you had to do what you were told to do, but it wasn't the fact that you didn't know, because he explained it very well to you. And if you weren't listening, and he explained it, and then if he thought maybe you didn't get it, he would ask you to repeat what he said. And there were a couple of guys that got the strap a couple of times because they couldn't remember what the teacher told them. So anyway, life is good. I have no complaints. They just have some backward thoughts once in a while. I'm looking at the sixth year now of the loss of my wife of 55 years, and so I'm still gathering up old videos and pictures and stuff, and sending pictures once in a while to different people across the country who knew her, trying to keep her memory alive. We know that she'll never be alive physically again, but we still keep the memories alive. And we meet with a lot of people having coffee downtown, and a lot of times they've gone through the same thing, and it's not a pleasant thing to do. But like my dad used to say to me, he'd say, I'd go to Dawson Creek every year to visit him, because I was still working at the time, and he would say to me, next year when you come up, I might not be here. I said, what do you mean? Where are you going? He said, I might be dead. I said, well, Dad, I know that. I said, I'm trying to wrap my head around the fact that that's going to happen. So I would try to brace myself to say, well, I know he's not going to be here. I'll be coming to this room number, walking by, and he won't be here. It'll be somebody else. But we talked a lot about the old days, but he had Alzheimer's pretty bad, and he couldn't remember a lot of stuff. Like he used to get up once in a while, and he would say, I don't think I had any breakfast this morning. So there was a lady sitting at the table that he sat at in a care home. She just lived across the hall in the care home, so I would go over and say, Lavina, did Dad have breakfast this morning? Oh, yeah. He didn't remember. But you could talk about the 1950s years, back in the years to the 1950s, and he would be able to talk about things that we did together. We went hunting, shot some partridges or shot a deer, went for a drive in the country, and he remembered all those things, but he couldn't remember he had breakfast. 2 hours before he had breakfast, couldn't remember. So the mind plays funny tricks on us. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We all got to go through that exercise, and the old story about there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but I think it's a train. So we have to enjoy every moment we have left. Meet a lot of new friends, meet old friends. Talk about the good times. Share the good stories. Have a few laughs, and appreciate what we can still do. If you could wake up in the morning and dress yourself, put your clothes on and get your shoes on the right feet, make yourself a bite to eat, and still drive your car. Even if you can't drive a car, you can ride a bus, hire a taxi, have a friend take you downtown, and still enjoy many of the things that you could before. There's going to be a few things we can't do, but that's okay. We can still do the things that we still enjoy doing and have fun doing it. We have to enjoy every moment as if it was the last. Every day, we never know if we're going to wake up tomorrow morning or not. So we just have to enjoy every moment and have a good talk with our friends, have a coffee, and tell a few jokes, and enjoy every moment as if it was the last. So have yourself a great evening. Good night.